Hello, I am Iris Dev. Today we're gonna talk about an apology for Pari written by Sir Philip Sidney. Sir Philip Sidney was born on 30 November 1554 and he was died on 17 October 1586. He was English poet, he was critic, he was scholar, and he was courtier, he was soldier. Uh, an apology for poetry. It is a response to the Stephen Gosson School of Abuses. In the previous video, we have talked about the School of Abuses, which was written by Stephen Gossens. If you have not yet watched that video, you will find here the I button. Please click on the I button to get the access of that previous video. So he says, poetry is a good, it's not a bad. He says poetry is merely not civilization, but poetry is a civilized and is civilizing art form. He says civilized people valued the poetry and also valued the art of writing the poetry and the work of poet. He further says that poetry brings you to the closer of the gods. It also gives you the right to honor to the heavenly makers. Heavenly maker means here the God, and it can also give you the rights to honor your gods. And he further says that poetry is an art of imitations, as Aristotle has described. He says, yes, it is also, Sidney says, yes, it is an art of imitations. And he further says poetry involves metaphors, and metaphors is the form of art of imitations, and it compares the one thing to another. Fifth thing he says, poetry is a speaking image whose aim is to delight the people. Original lines, these are the famous lines of the Sidney. You can pen down it. Nature never set forth the earth in so rich tapestry as diverse poets have done. Neither with so pleasant rivers, fruitful trees, sweet smelling flowers, nor what so else may make the too much loved earth more largely. Her world is present. The poet only delivered a goal. Here, these lines tells us that poet is so eminent person. Poet is a prominent because it make the earth like a gold. There is nothing which can make the earth so nice. In spite of that, the earth has flowers, rivers, fruitful trees, sweet flowers. But to describe all these things, poet is the first person who make it more valuable by his poetry. So that he says it is only the poet who make the earth gold, who make the earth valuable, who describe the descriptions, who give the descriptions of the earth, who describe the earth. So he is only the poet. Next he says that poetry is superior to nature's. Means first poetry, then nature's. Nature is being described by the poetry. Poetry is not described by the natures. Nature doesn't describe the poetry, but poetry describes the natures. Remember these things. He further says, and poet make the world as bright as gold by his poetry. Sidney has again said here, these are the original lines, you just have to pen down. He compared the poetry with the philosophy and with the uh, history. He says philosophy and history is not superior than the poetry. Poetry is superior than the history and philosophy. He says, I say the philosophy teacheth. I say the philosophy teacheth, but he teacheth obscurely. Obscurely means not with good understanding. उर्दू में इसको कह सकते हैं अंधेरे में पढ़ाना, या हिंदी में आप इसको कह सकते हैं अंधेरे में पढ़ाना. तो obscurity means darkness, means he teacheth obscurely. Who teacheth obscurely? Philosophy teacheth obscurely, or the philosopher teaches with the obscurity, means with the darkness. There is no brightness in their philosophy. If the philosopher teaches philosophy, he further says, as the learned men only understand. It means that if the philosopher teaches to the people, the learned people can understand what they have taught. The common people don't. He further says, and only can understand. Learned only can understand. Means learn only can understand him. That is to say, he teacheth them that are already taught. He teacheth them, they are already taught. Means they can understand that things as they have already known. So that the philosopher teach what the learned people have already learned. So that this is not a big deal. Here he further says that the poets, he give the comparison with the philosophers. He gave the comparison to the philosophers and to the poets. He says, the poet, by the contrast, can teach people who are not schooled, who have not learned in the schools, who are out of the schools, who don't have any knowledge of the schools in the philosophy. Means who are not schooled in a philosophy. They have not learned the philosophy in the schools. Poet can teach them also, and further impart the valuable lessons on them. Means the poet have the ability to impress the uneducated people. He has the ability to impress the people. He had not even seen the schools, so he can teach to those people who are uneducated. He further says that poetry is a democratic art. Democratic art in the sense there is a democracy. Anybody can acquire it if he has the ability. He has a capability or capacity. There is no need of practice of writing the poetry. Poetry comes by the divine force, as it has been told by the Plato also. So there is no need of practice. There is no need of going to the schools and to learn how to write the poetry. Poetry is a democratic art. Everyone can write it if he has ability, he has a capability, he has a capacity, he has a potential to write poetry, so that he can write it. And further he says that and is accessible to those who are not educated. So that poetry is superior than the philosophy, than the history, and it also teaches the didactic superiority, and it is also the didactic tool for the history. He make the comparison between the history and poetry. He says poetry tells what the fact is. Poetry tells what actually is. Poetry tells what actually has happened. And moral lesson couldn't be taken from the history, because history tells about the war, it tells about the bloodshed, it tells about the bad things, it tells about the movement which is against the government. So can it be possible that history provide the moral educations to the people? No, it is only the it is only the poetry who can give the moral education to the people, to the to the people of the state, to the people of the country, to the people of the world. Uh, he says that Stephen Ghost makes following charge, and those charge were: it is a waste of time. First, it is a mother of lies. Second, it is a nurse of abuse. Third, it has been banished from the real state of Plato. Plato himself banished it. So these charges has been imposed on the poetry by uh, um, Stephen. So he gives the answer. First, he says poetry is not a waste of time. It is a source of information. It gives the informations, and further says that no learning is so good without the poetry. If there is no poetry, there is no learning. Where there is poetry, there is learning. So learning becomes good with the help of poetry. So is it a waste of time? Can you say that poetry is a waste of time? No, it is not a waste of time. It provides the informations. It provides the informations. So how can you say that it's a waste of time? The second charge which he imposed on the poetry, that poetry is a mother of lies. He says poetry is not a mother of lies. As a poet never affirmed that his poetry is valued and can never lie. So if the poet himself says that, he himself not says that poetry is saying the truth. My poetry is so truthful. It keeps the knowledge of reality. How can you say that poetry is a mother of lies? No, it's not possible. He further says that the third charge, it is a nurse of abuse. He rejects this statement that poetry is not a nurse of abuse. Why? According to him, abuses are there in the philosophy and the history, and these abuses are more than the poetry. So there is no abuses at all in the poetry. These abuses are only in the philosophy and in the history. So these abuses should be avoided in the history or in the philosophy. And poetry, he says that then the poetry, and poetry helps to keep the peace. Poetry helps to keep the prosperity. Poetry helps to keep the balance for avoiding the violence, and all these things is not there in the poetry, but these things are really there in the history. So the fourth charge, which he says that Stephen goes that poetry has been banished by the Plato from his ideal state. Here give the suggestion that he should not banish the poetry from his ideal state. He should banish the abuses which has been imposed on the poetry. The abuses of the poetry should be banished from the real state. That is all from my side today. If you have not yet subscribed the channel, please subscribe the channel. Press the bell icon to get the instant notification of my videos, and also comment, share. Thank you very much.